Okay, so you want to buy a bounce house. Not one bounce house, a fleet of them. Dinosaurs, obstacle courses, water slides, the works. You picture pulling up to a kid's birthday party in a work van, dropping off some inflatable castle, collecting a check and leaving 2 hours later. Easy money. Here's the thing though, this is one of the only businesses in America where a $400 inflatable can generate a 90% profit margin on a single Saturday. And it's also a business where the average owner works themselves into the ground for 3 years before quietly shutting down and selling their entire inventory on Facebook Marketplace for pennies on the dollar. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how a bounce house actually pays for itself. Why the real business isn't the bounce house at all. Why so many people get into this thinking it's passive income and find out the hard way that it's the opposite. And what separates the operators quietly clearing $500,000 a year from the ones who burn out after one brutal summer. The real question isn't whether a bounce house makes money. It's whether you can build the machine around it. Because the inflatable is just the asset. The system is what makes it profitable. So, let's start with the actual object. A basic 13-foot bounce house, the kind you'd rent for a backyard birthday party, costs somewhere between $800 and $1,500 if you buy commercial-grade vinyl, which by the way you have too. Residential-grade inflatables, the kind you'd find on Amazon for $300, are basically illegal to rent out in most states because they don't meet commercial fire and safety codes. That distinction matters because it's the first filter that weeds out the hobbyists from the operators. Once you get into combo units, bounce house plus slide plus obstacle course, you're looking at $3,000 to $6,000 per unit. And the big showpiece stuff, the 30-foot water slides, the obstacle courses that look like something out of a game show, those run $8,000 to $15,000 each. So the inventory ladder looks very different, depending on what kind of operator you want to be. Now here's where it gets interesting. A single 13-foot bounce house typically rents for $150 to $250 for a 6 to 8 hour block. So if that unit costs you $1,200 to buy, it pays for itself in 6 to 8 rentals. That's it. After that, every single booking is close to pure profit, minus delivery gas and a little wear and tear. Compare that to almost any other physical asset business, a food truck, a car wash, a laundromat, and the payback period on a bounce house is absurdly fast. This is why, on paper, this business looks like one of the best returns on capital you can find. The math is almost cartoonishly good, and that's exactly the trap. Because the math being good doesn't mean the business is easy. It just means the barrier to entry is low enough that everyone with a truck and a Facebook page thinks they can do it. So let's talk about how the money actually flows in, because it's not as simple as rent equals profit. A typical weekend operator running 5 to 10 units can gross anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000 on a single Saturday during peak season, is roughly April through October. That's the number people see on TikTok that gets them excited. But the real business isn't birthday parties. Birthday parties are the loss leader that keeps your equipment moving. But they're inconsistent, they're price sensitive, and parents will absolutely go with whoever's $15 cheaper. The real money is in corporate and municipal contracts, company picnics, school field days, church festivals, city-sponsored summer events. Those bookings pay 2 to 3 times the residential rate. They're booked months in advance, and they often come with add-on services like a dunk tank, a cotton candy machine, or a generator rental, each of which is basically free money because the markup on accessories is even higher than on the inflatables themselves. Think of it like a barbershop. The haircut gets people in the door, but the real profit is the beard trim, the hot towel, the product upsell. Bounce house companies figured out the same trick. The inflatable is the hook, the generator rental, the tables and chairs, the popcorn machine, the extra hour add-on. That's where owners quietly pad their margins to 60, 70, even 80% on top of what's already a high-margin rental. Now, let's talk about why. Despite all this, a huge chunk of people who start this business quit within 2 years, and it comes down to something nobody puts in the Instagram reel: labor and logistics. A bounce house doesn't deliver itself. Every single rental requires someone to load a 200-pound water-soaked piece of vinyl into a trailer, drive it to a location, unload it, stake it, or sandbag it. hook up a blower, wait for the party to end, then come back, deflate it, load it again, and drive it home to hose it down and dry it before mold sets in. On a busy Saturday, that's not one job, that's 4 or 5 deliveries, back to back, in 90-degree heat, often solo, because hiring help eats into the margin that made this business attractive in the first place. And here's a stat that surprises people. According to industry insurance data, the average commercial bounce house lasts somewhere between 300 and 500 uses before it needs to be replaced or heavily repaired, thanks to UV degradation, seam tears, and puncture damage. That 90% margin number everyone throws around doesn't usually account for depreciation, storage space, a cargo trailer, liability insurance, which, by the way, can run $1,500 to $3,000 a year minimum, because bounce houses are, statistically, involved in thousands of ER visits annually in the US, and the blower motors that burn out and need replacing every season. Suddenly, that pure profit rental starts looking a lot more like a business with real operating costs, just ones that are easy to hide when you're only counting the cash in your hand on a Saturday night. There's also the seasonality problem, and this is the one that actually kills most operators. Depending on your climate, you might have 5, maybe 6 good months a year. The rest of the time, your equipment sits in a garage, costing you storage space and insurance, while generating $0. This is why the smartest operators in this space don't actually run a bounce house business. They run an event equipment business, and bounce houses are just one product line. They add tent rentals, tables and chairs, photo booths, holiday inflatables, the giant inflatable snow globes, and Santa displays that companies rent out every December, specifically to smooth out the revenue curve. So the equipment they bought isn't sitting idle from November to March. Let's talk numbers on what real payoff looks like, because there's a wide gap between the person doing this as a weekend side hustle and the person who's built a real company. A solo operator with 5 to 8 units, working weekends only, is realistically clearing $20,000 to $40,000 a year in profit after expenses. Decent side income, definitely not a living. But operators who scale to 20, 30, 40 plus units, hire part-time delivery crews, land recurring corporate and school district contracts, and diversify into tents and party equipment. Those businesses are grossing $300,000 to over $1 million a year, with the biggest regional players in cities like Houston, Phoenix, and Orlando, running fleets worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in inventory. At that scale, it stops being the bounce house guy and starts being a legitimate logistics company that happens to specialize in inflatables. And that's really the twist of this whole business. The bounce house isn't the product, it's the inventory. The actual business is logistics, scheduling, and relationships, knowing which PTA president to call in February to lock in the spring carnival contract, having a route optimized so you're not driving 45 minutes between deliveries, eating your own margin in gas, and having backup units so a torn seam on Saturday morning doesn't mean canceling on a kid's birthday party, and eating a 1-star review that tanks your Google rating for months. In a business with basically no brand loyalty, one bad Saturday can undo a year of good ones. So, is it a good business? Genuinely, yes. The unit economics on a single inflatable are some of the best you'll find anywhere. Low startup cost, fast payback, high margin per transaction. But it rewards people who treat it like an actual logistics operation. And it quietly destroys people who thought they were buying a passive income machine. The people who make real money in this space aren't the ones with the flashiest inflatable. They're the ones who figured out that a bounce house company isn't selling fun, it's selling reliability. On a Saturday, at 9 a.m., when a mom with 30 kids showing up in an hour needs everything to just work. If you like this breakdown, I'm doing this for a different weird but profitable business every week. Let me know in the comments which one you want covered next.